had somebody argue with me the other day on X how project-based learning doesn't work and we should never use it. Well, I beg to differ. I think that several well-selected projects in a school year can truly make a difference using something called gold standard project-based learning. And that's topic of today's show for Thought Leader Thursday.
This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Today on the show, we're joined by Dr. Lisa Mireles, a longtime educator who has worked in California, Indonesia, India, and helped start the Hawaii Society of Technology and Education and has won so many awards as an educator in Hawaii. She is now the managing director of digital curriculum at PBLWorks, which is formerly the Buck Institute of Education. They are the leading organization that helps us educators implement high-quality, project-based learning. We call that PBL in K-12 education. So, Lisa, thanks for coming on the show. How do you define gold standard project-based learning, and what makes it different from just doing a, quote, fun project?
Well, project-based learning, it's a pedagogical approach in which students learn by actively engaging in real-world and personally meaningful projects. PBLWorks has developed the gold standard framework, which has two parts to it. We have two wheels, and one is related to project design. We call those our 7 essential design elements because you have to have a high-quality project in order to be able to implement a written project or a developed project, as you would say. The other are project-based teaching practices, and there's 7 of those. And those are outline some of the moves teachers have to make in order to do PBL well in the classroom. So there's 2 parts to our gold standard framework.
Let's try to visualize PBL. When you picked your classroom following gold standard PBL, what will you see and hear in a gold standard PBL classroom?
The first thing you're going to experience when you walk into a gold standard PBL classroom is sort of this productive buzz. You're going to hear kids talking to each other. You're going to see the student, the teacher moving around, facilitating, coaching. We call that engage and coach, the teaching practice. I hope you'll see a project wall that has the challenging problem or question they're exploring on the wall, the milestones that students are going to be going through in order to create a product that demonstrates their answer to what I think the heart of the PBL is a really good driving question. So we have an excellent driving question, challenging problem or question. Students are engaged in inquiry. So they're asking questions, they're researching, they're finding the answers to their own questions, but they're also applying what they're learning to the products that they're going to share with the world, usually an individual major product and then a team major product, to sort of help them share and demonstrate their answer to the driving question. They're always going back to those need to knows. I want them to be like, what do we need to know? How are we going to find that out? We learned it. Now, what does that mean for our product? And how does that change our answer to the driving question? Sometimes you'll see kids working with experts. You'll see artifacts on the wall. You might see some kind of timeline, a Trello board, a Kanban board showing individual and group projects. Students engage in thinking routines. Students using rubrics and exemplars to guide them. Students self-assessing. Students giving each other feedback using really high-quality critique and revision protocols. And the teacher is constantly assessing, engaging in coaching, scaffolding as needed, building a culture, supporting kids with project management. It's a dynamic, vibrant, exciting place.
It's so much fun. In my early days of adopting the method, way back when PBLWorks was called the Buck Institute, it was called the Flat Classroom Project, my big, huge project that we did that was in the Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat, which is an 8-week project with all these standards and so many things that we were learning. The classroom does have a buzz and it is loud. This is teaching. It's not standing at the front of the room. And an interesting thing, you mentioned Trello Kanban board. My son now works with me, and when I hired him and brought him on, we were talking about systems. He said, hey, well, can't we use a Kanban board like we did in that project when you taught me in the 7th grade? Like, I didn't know when I was teaching him all of these things in project-based learning that I was preparing him for the project of creating a radio and TV show that hundreds of thousands of people listen to every week. It translated directly to the real world. Isn't that so exciting?
For me, it's everything. That is the magic. I have a similar story. I was in the car with my kids. We're listening to an ad on the radio, and she starts naming all the techniques that the company is using. How do you know all about that? She goes, 5th grade advertising unit. So that's the thing. We want it to be deep and we want kids to learn skills and transferability. Of course, we want them to have the content level learning goals. That's central to any project. That's at the center of both of our frameworks, actually, is key knowledge understanding and what we call success skills, what a lot of people call 21st century skills, graduate profile skills. We've got 5 sort of defined with evidence-based rubrics that people can find on our website around communication, around creativity, around self-directed learning, which is a really important one to help students. And that's a really important part for teachers to understand that you're developing a set of skills and the process is just as important as the product of what they're creating. Students reflecting on that. Reflection is one of our design elements. What am I learning? How am I learning it? How am I shifting as a learner? How's my thinking changing? How am I showing up for my group? How am I growing in that area? Those kinds of reflections are really critical for students to be having about their learning. There's a lot of opportunity for that in PBL.
Well, an interesting thing, I do an app building project I've written on Edutopia. Invariably, I'll have students when I kick off that project who say, but I don't know how to build an app. And I'm like, that's what the project is about. We're learning as part of the project. It's not, I do all this and then I do a project at the end. The learning is part of that process. How about the teachers who teach math or science or other subjects? Are there examples you can give me for some other subjects?
One of my favorite high school science projects that is in our project library is a project called The Magic of Microgrids. So it's really how can we design a microgrid to increase our community's energy resilience? Students are learning about microgrids, what they are, that they're one of many tools used in building energy resilience, and they identify a critical sector in their community and determine what's going to be involved in creating a self-sufficient microgrid that could connect to and disconnect from the larger electrical grid. Learning about power, they're hitting NGSS standards. They're also hitting some of those engineering and design standards that are subsumed within the NGSS, right? There's so many opportunities in science and in math. One of my favorite math projects is a middle school math project called Diamond in the Rough. Driving question for that is how can we design a custom diamond that meets the wishes of our client? So students explore the geometry behind dazzling diamonds. They explore cuts, angles, proportions. Then they apply the concepts, surface area, volume. They look at durability. They look at sparkle. Use their findings and their research to design a custom piece of jewelry for some clients' needs. So they're really hitting spatial reasoning, and they're also hitting how does math help us shape beauty? They're hitting some of the more enduring, beautiful things about the discipline that makes the disciplines. Like I was a social studies teacher. There's so much exciting about that, and I know from teaching theory of knowledge in the IB that there's so much beauty in the discipline of science and science for science sake and math for math's sake. I think in PBL, we have this opportunity to bring that really alive for students to see the application of it in a way that relates to how the world works.
How about elementary reading?
It's such a big question in literacy development. For me, we call them the equity levers in project-based learning, knowledge of students. PBL gives us an opportunity to know our students well. It gives us an opportunity to have cognitive demand. It's what every student deserves, what every student needs. It gives us an opportunity to address literacy, which is like this universal thing that students need to be able to be successful in our world. And it also fosters student agency. But you have to be intentional in the design. For us, every project that we support people in developing, we ask them to include literacy skills within that. They're reading, they're writing, they're speaking, they're listening. They're doing all of them, not just reading. We think of literacy as this one-dimensional thing. But literacy is actually very multidimensional, and you'll see students being able to practice literacy skills that they maybe don't always have the opportunity to do. You'll see them become better speakers. You'll see them become better listeners because they're working collaboratively with each other. You'll see them be better at critical thinking and evaluating resources, detecting bias. At the elementary level, what we really like teachers to do is to really think about what are the literacy skills. And you can have an ELA project-based learning project. You can have an ELA social studies. You can have an interdisciplinary one. One of my favorites is what makes someone a community hero. It's a second grade project. I love this project. So they learn about well-known second grade historical and present day heroes, and they identify and discuss heroes in their local community. So they're just doing a shared definition. They're understanding the characteristic, and they have to read. They have to interview. They have to come up with interview questions. They have to listen. Then they create an artistic portrait of that person, and then they write a paragraph explaining who the hero is, and they put together a gallery of heroes exhibit. It's really enhancing literacy. It's like saying, so we've got our reading program, whatever literacy program that we're using, but doing PBL allows you to sort of enhance literacy and make that an all-day thing, not just during literacy time in PBL.
That's wonderful. So a lot of us teachers feel squeezed for time. And a lot of times when I talk to people about gold standard project-based learning, the first thing they say is, how am I going to fit it in? And how am I going to still hit all my standards and benchmarks? What do I do? How do we shift that?
I want to disrupt the notion that coverage is enough. I'm just going back to Grant Wiggins, right? The futility of trying to teach everything of importance. PBL is really about uncoverage and about going deeper and about having teachers identify what matters most. Which of my standards can I put together in an interesting unit? Which are the most important? A lot of districts do this for us. They have what we call power standards, or they have focus standards that you have to hit because everybody knows. I think I read somewhere that would take 3 years to do all the 5th grade standards if you wanted to. You need the kids for 3 years.
Why do we even do that to ourselves?
So we can't do that. So we're already always making a lot of choices about what matters most. So when you're trying to decide what's worthy of going deeper and doing deeper learning, you have to do a little bit of trust. You need your leaders on board. We do a lot of work with leaders in creating ecosystems that support teachers to do project-based learning well. And one of them is like, can you give a little on the pacing guide? Can you give teachers freedom or permission to spend more time on something? I used to do curriculum mapping with Heidi Hayes-Jacob. One of the things that I did with my own teachers in my own school at that time, I was principal as well, was after a project-based learning unit. So they'd say, this is what we think we're going to teach. These are the standards. This is we're designing this unit for. And then after, I'd say, now I want you to go back to your standards and say, what did you actually teach? What did you hit deep? Did you surface what was middle, what was deep? And it was always twice as much as they thought it was going to be. It's just a shift in mindset and trusting that kids will remember more. I was a social studies teacher. I'd be like, lecture Monday, chapter Tuesday, video Wednesday, deputy Thursday, test Friday. I mean, I was early 90s, right? Saturday, they forgot everything, even if they got an A. So it just wasn't good enough for me, right? Like, no, I want you to remember this. I want you to get it in your heart and your soul, important things that matter. But I think PBL lets you do that, allows you more opportunities to do that. There's a school here in Hawaii that does a really cool approach. It's called SEEKS, the School for Examining Essential Questions of Sustainability. It's run by my really good friend, Buffy Cushman-Patz. And so in hers, students pick what they call EQS time. So they have math, social studies, English, science, it's middle school. They have advisory, they have PE, they have art. And then I think it's 4 days a week. They have EQS time. They will explore a topic with an interdisciplinary group of teachers with other students who want to study that. And they get to do choice time, and they started with field work. I might not be explaining it perfectly well. Buffy, forgive me if you're listening, but they share at the end of that trimester what they learned. We have over 100 project ideas on our teacher resource site, which is actually called my.pblworks.org. And so you can just click on projects and you can filter and search by grade or subject. One thing to know is that a lot of the projects can scale up or down. We call them project snapshots. So to get you thinking and get your juices flowing.
So Lisa Mireles, she is with PBLWorks. We have a lot of great information we'll include in the show notes. They have a lot of great resources. You can go to their website and look at all the ideas they have for you. Gold standard project-based learning, I think, is more important than ever because we live in the world of AI. We need our students to be creating things that aren't already created. Well, Lisa, thank you for coming on the show. This has been very informative, and we will have all this information in the show notes. So thanks for coming on.
It was delightful. Thanks for having me, Vicki.
Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.